The Lion's Promise. Once upon a time, in the heart of the African savannah, there lived a young lion named Kozi. He was the son of the great King Django, the leader of a proud and powerful pride. Kozi was known for his fierce spirit and boundless energy, but he was still too young to understand the true weight of leadership. One fateful day, a great drought struck the savannah. The rivers ran dry, the grass withered, and the animals were desperate for food and water. The pride was struggling, and Kozi's father, King Django, became gravely ill from the exhaustion of trying to protect and provide for his family. It became clear that the strength of the pride depended on someone stepping forward to make a difficult sacrifice. On his deathbed, King Django called Kozi to his side. His once mighty voice was now a faint whisper as he spoke, "My son, the time has come for you to lead. You must go beyond the borders of our territory, and seek the sacred waterfall that flows even in the driest of times. It is the only place where water remains pure and plentiful. You must make this journey, for the survival of our pride depends on it." Kozi's heart swelled with fear and uncertainty. He was still just a cub in many ways, and the path ahead was unknown and dangerous. But he made a promise to his father, swearing that he would do whatever it took to save their pride. The journey was treacherous. Kozi traveled through vast stretches of barren land where the sun scorched the earth, and wild beasts roamed freely. Along the way, he faced many challenges. He was attacked by a pack of hyenas, battled a cunning crocodile near a dried-up riverbed, and narrowly escaped a fierce storm. Yet, with each obstacle, Kozi grew stronger, learning that courage was not just about strength, it was about facing fear, persevering, and protecting those he loved. One evening, as Kozi rested beneath the shade of a tall acacia tree, an old wise lioness appeared to him. She had once been part of a legendary pride and knew the ways of the land. "Young lion," she said, "you are brave, but true courage comes from sacrifice. The sacred waterfall is not only a place of abundance, but also a place of choice. To reach it, you must give up something dear to you." Kozi felt a chill run down his spine. "What must I give up?" he asked. The lioness simply said, "You will know when the time comes. But remember, to lead is to serve, and to love is to sacrifice." Determined, Kozi pressed on. Days turned into weeks, and his body grew weary. Finally, after a long and painful journey, Kozi reached the sacred waterfall. The sight was breathtaking. Water cascaded down into a crystal-clear pool, and lush vegetation surrounded the area. Kozi drank deeply, but as he rested by the water, he noticed a dark shape in the distance. It was a massive crocodile, guarding the pool. The crocodile spoke with a voice like thunder. "Only those who are willing to give up something precious may drink from the sacred waterfall." Kozi's heart raced as he realized the true meaning of the lioness's words. The sacred waterfall demanded a sacrifice. He thought of his pride, his family, his home, and knew what he had to do. In a moment of clarity, Kozi understood that the love he had for his pride meant he would have to sacrifice his own safety and comfort. He approached the crocodile and said, "I am ready to give up my claim to this water, for it belongs not to me alone, but to my pride. I will leave with nothing but my promise." The crocodile studied him for a long moment and then nodded. "Your heart is pure, young lion. Go back to your pride. They will drink, and your journey will be remembered." With a heavy heart, but newfound strength, Kozi turned back toward his pride. As he walked through the savannah, the skies seemed to clear, and the land began to show signs of life once more. When he returned, the pride welcomed him with joy and awe. The sacred waterfall's blessing had been carried back to the land through his sacrifice. King Django, though frail, smiled upon seeing his son return. Kozi had kept his promise. He had faced hardship and fear, and in doing so, he had learned the true meaning of courage and love. He had not only saved his pride, but had proven that leadership was not about power, but about selflessness and sacrifice. From that day on, Kozi became the new leader of the pride, a lion who led with love, wisdom, and a heart full of courage. And as the savannah flourished once more, the story of the lion's promise was passed down through generations, a reminder that the greatest strength comes not from the body, but from the heart. The pride was adjusting to the shift in leadership, and Kozi's decision to pass the mantle to Kovu was met with respect and understanding. Though Kozi had been the heart of the pride for many years, it was clear to all that the time for change had come. Kovu, with his strength and wisdom, was ready to carry the weight of leadership. Kozi had always known that leadership was about more than power. It was about guiding others, nurturing the future, and making the difficult decisions for the good of all. And in Kovu, he saw the same qualities that had defined him as a young lion. One evening, as Kozi sat beside Kovu under the stars, he spoke to him one last time as his leader. "Remember, Kovu," Kozi said softly, "true leadership comes from the heart. It is not about ruling, but about serving those you lead. Love and sacrifice, those are the pillars that will guide you." Kovu nodded, his eyes steady. "I will not forget, Kozi. I will lead with my heart, just as you have." Though Kovu had been prepared for this moment, nothing could fully prepare him for the responsibility that now lay on his shoulders. His first test came sooner than expected when a herd of wildebeest, displaced by a wildfire on the edge of the savannah, began to encroach on the pride's territory. The pride was used to sharing the land with the wildebeest, but now their numbers were growing, and their presence was becoming a threat to the food sources that the pride relied on. Kovu had to make a decision quickly. Would he lead the pride into a confrontation with the wildebeest, or would he find a way to peacefully resolve the situation? As the leaders of the neighboring herds gathered to discuss the matter, Kovu met with them in the cool shade of a baobab tree. His voice was calm and steady as he spoke. "We share this land. Let us find a solution that benefits us all. I will not let conflict rise unnecessarily." Kovu's willingness to listen and compromise won him the respect of the herders and the animals of the savannah. After long discussions, the herds agreed to find new grazing grounds, and the pride's territory was left undisturbed. Kovu's first leadership test had been passed, not through battle, but through wisdom and diplomacy. In the days following his first test, Kovu sought counsel from the elders of the pride, including Nia, who had been a source of strength and guidance for both Kozi and Kovu throughout their lives. She had seen many seasons come and go and had lived through countless challenges. One evening, Kovu sat with Nia under the canopy of a fig tree. "I have led the pride through my first challenge," he said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "But I know there will be more, and I feel the weight of it all." Nia smiled softly, her eyes filled with the wisdom of the years. "You will face many challenges, Kovu. But remember, a leader does not have to bear the weight alone. Trust in those around you, your pride, your allies, and the wisdom of those who have walked this path before you." Kovu nodded thoughtfully. "I will listen, Nia. I will not carry this burden alone." The savannah was alive with the sounds of change once more. A migration of gazelles, driven by the seasonal rains, made their way through the territory. With them came a group of nomadic lions who had wandered far from their own pride, seeking refuge in the territory Kozi's pride had once called their own. These nomadic lions were a quiet, solitary group, and though they had lived through many hardships, they were wary of forming new alliances. Kovu knew that their presence could be a potential challenge, especially with the drought still lingering in certain parts of the savannah. Would the pride be able to peacefully share the land, or would territorial conflicts arise? Kovu called for a meeting with the nomadic lions, hoping to establish an understanding of shared space and resources. As he approached their leader, a lioness named Nyara, he spoke with the calm authority that Kozi had taught him. "This land is vast, but it belongs to us all. If we work together, we can ensure there is enough for everyone." Nyara, a lioness with a sharp gaze, studied Kovu before responding. We have traveled far and seen much. We seek no conflict, but we will defend our right to survive. Kovu's voice remained steady. I offer you an alliance, Nyara. Let us not fight for what can be shared. Together, we will strengthen this land. After a tense silence, Nyara nodded. We will see what your pride is capable of, Kovu. But know this, if trust is broken, we will leave, and we will take what is ours. Weeks passed, and the land seemed to breathe easier as the two groups of lions, Kovu's pride and the nomadic lions, began to coexist. The gazelles, too, found new grazing areas and kept to their migration paths. The peace was fragile, but it held. Then, one day, a group of poachers entered the savannah. Their presence was dangerous not just for the lions, but for all the animals of the land. They set traps, poisoned water holes, and hunted indiscriminately, leaving destruction in their wake. When Kovu learned of their arrival, he knew that this was a true test, not of strength, but of trust. Kovu gathered both his pride and the nomadic lions, urging them to work together to defend the land. He spoke clearly, our enemies are not one another. The poachers seek to destroy us all. Together, we stand stronger than we ever could alone. The two prides, despite their differences, united in the face of the greater threat. They tracked the poachers, working in unison to drive them out of the savannah. It was a hard-fought battle, but with determination and unity, they succeeded in protecting their home. The poachers were gone, driven out by the combined might of the lions, and the savannah began to heal once more. The animals of the land, from the tiniest beetles to the tallest giraffes, rejoiced in the peace that had been restored. Kovu stood at the edge of the savannah, looking out over the land he had fought to protect. The pride had grown stronger, not through battles fought against one another, but through their unity in the face of true threats. He had learned, as Kozi had before him, that leadership was about more than power. It was about protecting what truly mattered. Beside him, Nyara, the nomadic lioness, stood silently. You have proven yourself, Kovu, she said, her voice respectful. The land is safer now, thanks to your leadership. Kovu turned to her, a soft smile on his face. It was not just me. We fought together. The future of the savannah depends on all of us. As the sun set over the horizon, Kovu knew that his leadership, born from love and sacrifice, had ensured that the promise of peace, unity, and strength would continue for generations to come. Time passed, and Kovu grew into a wise and respected leader. The savannah had flourished under his guidance, and the peace that had been hard-won now seemed like a permanent part of the land's natural rhythm. The seasons had come and gone, and with each passing year, the pride became stronger, more unified, and more aware of its connection to every creature that shared the savannah. Yet, Kovu knew that his time, like all things, was drawing to a close. The once young cub had now grown into a lion with a mane full of silver streaks. His body, though still strong, felt the weight of years. He had led with wisdom and compassion, but now it was time for the next chapter of the savannah's story to begin. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped low and the golden light bathed the savannah, Kovu called together his pride, just as his father, Kozi, had done years before. It is time for me to step down, Kovu said, his voice calm, but filled with emotion. The time has come for new leadership to rise. I have led you to this moment of peace, and now, I trust you will carry this peace forward. Kovu's eyes fell on his son, Jengo, named after Kozi's father. He could see the same fire in Jengo's eyes that he had once seen in his own. The young lion had been raised in the shadow of his father's leadership, and now, it was time for him to carry the pride into the future. As Kovu passed the mantle of leadership to his son, the pride gathered to honor the tradition that had been passed down through generations of lions. Jengo, though still young, had proven himself in countless ways, brave, strong, and wise beyond his years. Kovu knew he was ready to lead. Before the pride, Kovu stood tall, his voice filled with pride and love. Django, you are ready to carry the weight of leadership. You have learned the lessons of this land, and I trust you will lead with the same love, sacrifice, and courage that have defined our legacy. Django bowed his head respectfully. I will lead with honor, father. I promise to protect this land and its creatures. The pride roared in unison, a mighty, reverberating sound that echoed across the savannah. It was a roar of affirmation, a roar of hope for the future. As Kovu watched his son step forward, he felt a deep sense of peace. He had fulfilled his promise to his father, and now, his own son would carry the torch forward. The circle of life was complete, and the future of the pride was secure. With Django now leading the pride, Kovu stepped back, no longer the lion at the front of every gathering, but still respected, still honored. He took his place among the elders, where he could pass on his wisdom to the next generation. The savannah continued to thrive under Django's leadership, and Kovu often found himself watching from the sidelines, proud of the lion his son had become. Django led with a heart full of love for his pride and a deep understanding of the land. Under his rule, the animals of the savannah continued to live in harmony, united in their respect for the land and one another. As the seasons passed, the story of the lion's promise became a legend, a story told around campfires, passed down from one generation to the next. It was a story of courage, sacrifice, and love. And most importantly, it was a story about the promise that one lion made to protect his pride, and how that promise echoed through the ages. One evening, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Kovu lay beside his son, watching the stars twinkle above them. The savannah was peaceful, and the wind carried the scent of fresh grass and earth. Kovu smiled softly, knowing that the promise made by his father, and by him, had been fulfilled. As Kovu grew older, his days spent leading the pride slowly came to an end, but his legacy was woven into the very fabric of the savannah. He had given everything for the pride, for the land, and for the promise he had made. And in doing so, he had ensured that future generations would understand the true meaning of leadership. On a quiet evening, as the stars twinkled above and the winds carried the sounds of the savannah's night creatures, Kovu lay down under a tree and closed his eyes for the final time. His life had been long, and it had been full. His promise had been kept, and the savannah, and the pride, had been protected. Kovu's spirit would live on in the heart of the pride, and in the teachings he had passed on to his son, Django. The promise of the lion, the promise of leadership, love, and sacrifice, was not just his, it was the pride's. And as long as the lions roamed the savannah, the promise would continue, passed down from one leader to the next. The story of the lion's promise would never fade. It would echo through the ages, a reminder to all who heard it of the true meaning of courage, love, and sacrifice. And so, the legacy of Kozi, Kovu, and Django would live on forever in the savannah. The end.